From recruiting and consulting firm Riderflex, I'm your host, Steve Urban, and here is your Riderflex podcast episode of the day. Going on, Joe?
Hey, Steve, how are you?
I'm hanging in there, man. You?
Yeah, same thing. Finally getting some warm weather. It was pretty cold there for a while.
This weekend, I don't know about Missouri, but today, tomorrow, and Sunday in Colorado is supposed to be pretty nice for this time of year.
Yeah. 2 weeks ago, the high was -1 in Kansas City, and today it's like 71. So I don't know how you get a 102 point swing in 2 weeks, but welcome to the Midwest, right?
In fact, this morning I got up a little early, got some stuff ready. I'm going to throw it in the Jeep. About 1 o'clock here, I'm going to stop working. I'm going to drive up a little bit to the mountains and enjoy this beautiful forecast for the weekend. Kind of hang out a little bit. How about you? What's the schedule for the Mann family this weekend?
Yeah, so I think it's going to be something like that. So if we can get there's still some ice on the water. Otherwise, I'd be out canoeing this weekend. But
Gotcha.
Maybe we'll hit the trail with a mountain bike or something. So.
The canoe story, fascinating, by the way. I read through that. Congratulations on.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, the activity, but the records and stuff. I mean, tell me a little bit about. By the way, I guess we're rolling. We're live.
All right. Thanks.
Tell me about this. How did you get into this canoeing? Like, how did it start? How'd you get into it? Give me a little overview.
Well, like all things, you just kind of stumble into stuff sometimes, and so I was in procurement in an earlier part of my career, and I got taken out to lunch by a sales guy who was trying to sell me a phone system or something for the facility that I managed, and like a good sales guy, he was asking me questions, like, well, what do you do? What are your hobbies? And I said, yeah, I go canoeing sometimes. And it was always when I go canoeing, it was, a relaxing kind of float trip type canoeing in the past,
Right.
And this was about 15, 16 years ago. And he said, oh man, my brother-in-law, he just started this race. It's the world's longest canoe race in the world. It's from Kansas City to St. Louis on the Missouri River. It's 340 miles. And there's no mandatory layovers. There's no mandatory stops. You just paddle until you get to the finish. And I thought, this sounds really cool. And so my wife said, okay, fine, you're crazy, whatever, you can do it, and a lot of my friends called it the Missouri River death trip, because the Missouri River is kind of, it's a huge river. It's like the Mississippi. I mean, it's huge, right?
Huge.
But it's actually a quite nice river for recreation. A lot of fishing can be done. You can do some recreational stuff, but most people don't think that because they drive over the bridge and they look at it and go, oh my gosh, I'd never want to get in that much big water. It's really scary.
Yes.
So I just, started doing it and realized I was pretty decent at it, and been doing it for 15 years now.
Were you an in-shape guy, pretty athletic before that? Worked out all the time? Was that kind of your thing already?
I mean, I'm not a gym guy. I don't like going to the gym, but I do like being outdoors, right? So running, biking, and that kind of stuff. Yeah. So, but this, and I was, athlete in high school, but just normal high school athlete, but nothing special. But this is kind of one of those deals where the older you get actually benefits you, because it's more of a grind. Right.
Okay.
So, I'm not going to go compete at 1,000-meter sprint in the Olympics or something. But if it's, how much pain can you endure over 40 or 50 hours of just grinding and not stopping and pushing your body to the limits, and then have a little bit of strategy. So it kind of, all comes into play there.
Does the boat matter too? I mean, as far as I'm guessing your equipment is a big part of it. How streamlined is it? I guess that. And by the way, I saw the picture of the boat where you guys. So you won the most recent Missouri River 340, right? You and your team.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. I saw the picture of the boat and I'm like, holy shit. Okay, look at this thing. Like, this is not like your average canoe.
It was a custom boat, and the guy, one of my teammates, is the one who designed it and built it. So.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
How did you pick those teammates, by the way?
again, you kind of stumble into things. So, one of the guys I've been friends with for 15 years, and he's a great athlete. And then the other guy, I've met him a couple years ago, and he had this crazy idea to build this boat. And I said, all right, I'll do that. I'll sign up for this. It's something different, right? So this is a complete new style of boat, and we thought for sure, we trained all season, and we didn't even get off the drawing board until December. He didn't build it till March. The race is in July, so you're taking something that's gone from drawing board to production. Basically it's a glorified prototype. And the first 3 races we did, we not only lost, we lost miserably. So, things were breaking that we didn't anticipate. We would go back, we'd fix this, we'd go race again. The next race, something else would break. We're stranded on the side of the river, fixing this, fixing that. We finished in the middle of the pack or at the tail end of the pack, and everybody was pretty much writing us off and saying, there's no way these guys are going to finish. They can't even go 2 or 3 hours in a small race without something breaking. How are they going to go 40 hours in the big race without anything breaking? And we had a few issues, little something broke here, something broke there, but at that point we had it's all about risk mitigation. And so we had had some spare parts, and we had made plans for, well, if this happens we can do this or whatever. So we were able to hang on and pull out a win, and it was a good time.
How do you go 40 hours? How do you do that? What do you sleep on the, what do you pull over and throw down a sleeping bag, or what? How does that work?
No sleeping. If you want to win,
there's no sleeping. There's no sleep.
No.
What if you got to use? Okay, I don't want to get too graphic, but hey, I got to use the restroom. Hey, I got to,
there's ways to do that. So.
You're telling me that in the canoe I saw you guys are eating, you're wearing diapers, you're doing whatever.
No, we're not wearing diapers. We're not wearing diapers. So.
Okay.
I mean, it's the river, so you can kind of,
Oh man,
we try to limit it to the number one. Exactly.
You don't want to have to hey guys, I gotta jump over the side for a few minutes, and
maybe off recording I'll give you a good story of another race of some time in the past.
And then what about this record that you hold in Alabama? Now, what does 650 mean? Does that mean 50 hours? What does that mean?
650 miles.
Oh.
So this is so the Missouri River is the longest nonstop race that has no mandatory stop or portage. The Alabama 650 is the longest race, I think, in the United States anyways, for sure. But they do require a couple mandatory stops. So there's some big portages. So it's a series. The Alabama River Series system starts, up in the corner, kind of by Atlanta. It's in Mississippi, or it's in Alabama. Obviously, it's not in Georgia, but it's about an hour and a half from Atlanta, and then it goes all the way down and finishes into the Bay. Into Mobile Bay. And so there's a system of lakes. It'll be a river, and then it'll turn into a lake because there's a dam. So you have some lake houses and lake boats and things like that. Then you get past the dam and it turns into a river again for a while. Then you can find another lake, and there's a dam. And so that happens about 9 or 10 times for the first few hundred miles as you go through Montgomery and Selma. And so during those portages, because it's a little bit dangerous, I mean, you have to be careful, right? I mean, there's big hills and rocks or a dam or whatever, and you got to carry your boat through some brush maybe, or even sometimes it's a couple miles portage where you got to put on the car and drive it. And so they make a mandatory 30 to 45 minute layover on those. So that people don't try to rush too fast and get injured. So, but anyway, so that's the 650. So that took us 5 days, 22 hours and 34 minutes. And we actually did sleep for about 12 or 14 hours during that.
No showers though for 5 days.
We took one shower.
Okay.
We actually had a hotel in the middle. We booked a hotel in the middle in Selma, which is the halfway point almost, a little before halfway. But we got to Selma was like our shining star. We got there and we pulled out and we actually took a shower and slept in a real bed for about 3 hours. And then, but the rest of it was take a 30-minute nap under the tree and hope you don't get eaten by an alligator.
Reason I ask about the shower thing is because I do a lot of camping up in the mountains, do a lot of solo kind of trips, and A couple of nights, no problem. The third, if I do 3 nights, when I'm driving back, I can smell myself. I'm like, okay, yeah. Now, if I do 4, if I stretch it to 4 or 5 days, yeah, then it's bad when I walk in the house.
Well, it's, that's one thing too about being in, in the river race. I mean, if you feel like you want to, I mean, we rinsed off, obviously, right? So
I
if
gotcha.
we'd stop to get a resupply, we'd just jump in the water for a little bit and pull the clothes off,
Gotcha.
and just do a quick
Gotcha.
rinse, get out. When our crew had towels for us, we had a ground crew. You can't compete in a race like these. And really compete well without a ground crew. So you have to have
Oh, I
so
see.
they'll pace us along the way with our gear and supplies and vehicles. And we even
Okay.
had a bunk bed I built in the back of my dad's van, and so we
Oh,
could
cool.
slide in there and take a quick nap on some mattresses and come out and go again. So, but they brought us food and all clothes and all that kind of stuff. So we tried to make our pit stop, so to speak, very, very efficient and quick.
The ground crew, is this wives, husbands, friends, cousins, uncles, dads? What is this?
Whoever the hell we can rope into helping us.
I'm guessing you don't make any money on this. This is a hobby. This is a hobby / exercise activity that you spend money on.
It's all about bragging rights. Yeah, it's ridiculous. So
isn't it fascinating? First of all, congratulations. Really
thank
cool
you.
stuff.
Thanks. Appreciate
Really,
it.
really
Thanks.
cool stuff. How old are you?
43. I just turned 43. Yeah.
So 43. So your body, so you're feeling it definitely after a race for sure. How long does it
Yeah.
take you to recover? Couple of days.
Couple days, I'm back to 80-90%. Then it usually takes, but it takes about a month or two to really be 100%. You'll lose pinky fingernails because the pressure up when you're the paddles. You'll sometimes those will like reverse pressure, the nail fall off, or you'll lose feeling in your fingertips for a month or
Oh,
two,
okay.
or your
Wow.
toes, because if your feet are sitting, your legs are sitting, that's the worst part, is sitting on the same chair in a boat for that long. You
Oh,
think it's your
gotcha.
muscles. It's actually not
Gotcha.
the muscles. You can train your muscles to do anything, right? Just like walking, right?
Yeah.
It's like we're not running down the river in a boat. We're walking down the river in a boat. When you're doing it that long, you're not, we're keeping our heart rate about 110, 120. It's not like it's 150 or 180. You can't sustain that for that long. But the muscles, you can train your muscles to do that activity. And now that I've probably paddled, I would guess somewhere around 15 to 20,000 miles, over the last 15 years, just all the training and the races I do. Your muscles have the memory, they're built in, they know what they're doing. It's the joints and the tendons that you have to be careful about. That's what'll get you. That's where you listen to your body, and there's a difference between pain and there's a difference between injury. And so if it's like, okay, I can feel that, I know what that feels like, I've done it long enough, right? That's just pain. So just put it in a box, lock it in the closet, shut the hell up, keep going. Okay, this is potentially an injury. I need to take some steps to make sure this doesn't, maybe that's lay off on this side, or maybe it's just go a little easier now, get some ice, get some tape, just to make sure, mitigate that, that risk.
Do you watch your diet a little bit, or not? You're not crazy about that, or you just kind of, where you at with
Oh,
that?
I'd be 15 pounds lighter if I was crazy about my diet. No, I love eating, so I enjoy cheeseburgers and pizza just as much as the next guy. But I do do try to make a good attempt at being healthy.
I'm kind of the same. I'm like, look, I'm not going to eat a lot of sweets. I'm not going to eat a lot of seconds and thirds, and I'm going to be somewhat careful. But listen, I like cheeseburgers. I like pizza. I like Mexican food.
Yep.
It,
My
you know,
grandpa's this old Italian guy, and he used to always say, everything in moderation, Joe. Everything in moderation.
yeah,
So you
it's
want to
true.
do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, fine. Everything in moderation, right?
Yep, it's absolutely true. By the way, isn't it interesting how every guy that I know, or girl, you know, we all have like our priorities or our hobbies, right? And sometimes a hobby is a priority, but everybody's got something that's important to them, and they focus on that. I find that even more fascinating as I get older. Same thing. I had my Jeep. I got a tent roofed, or a rack tent on the back, and I was, putting a bunch of shit on my Jeep last weekend. And friend comes over. He lives 2 doors down. He walks over. He goes, and he looks in my garage. Now, keep in mind, his garage is like a freaking museum. Like, it's perfect. Like, his
Right.
garage is, there's not a single thing out of place, right?
Right.
he looks at my garage. Well, first of all, he looks at my Jeep. He's like, "Hey, nice Jeep. You know, you got other stuff on there." And obviously my Jeep and my camping stuff is my priority. Like everything's perfect.
Right.
And then he looks at my garage. And he goes, I guess I know what your priorities are, because my garage is not that organized.
I someday I have a dream that I will have one of those beautiful, organized, clean garages
Right.
that you see on like advertisements for the epoxy floors or the storage containers or whatever. You look at
Yes.
my garage. My garage probably looks just like yours. It's, I've got, lumber on one corner of it because I do projects around the house, and I do tools over there and
Exactly.
whatnot. All the racing gear and the bikes and the canoes and the stuff. So yeah, maybe
It's just
someday.
a matter of priority. It's a matter of priorities. By the way, how's your wife feel about it? Is she like super supportive, or she's like, okay,
Yeah.
I know you like to do that, so because I love you and I know you like it, I'm supportive? Or what's her?
Yeah,
take
no,
on it?
she's super supportive. So, but I mean, of course, we had some years where she's like, all right, Joe, you're going a little too far out here, like to rein you in a little bit, right? But no, she's super supportive, and we just actually went down to Texas last week. So I'm competing in a race called the Texas Water Safari this year with a team of guys, and that's I've done it a couple times. It's the most difficult race you'll ever do. It's insane. So you got snakes and fire ants and portages and crossing the bay. It's insane. It's a nuts race. It usually takes around 35 to 40 hours for the top teams, and so she went down there with me, and so she kind of got a little bit of a weekend to herself at the hotel, and I went and trained with my buddies, but then got to see her a little bit, so it was a nice weekend away. Yeah.
Where are the kids now? Because you have 3 kids, right?
I got 3 kids, but and there they are. But those are old pictures. So we started young. My oldest is 22, my second is 20, and my youngest is 18. So we are officially 3 adult children now. So
how about that? Are they out of the house? They all still in the house? Are they halfway in the house? Partway in the house? What's
my oldest one, the 2 youngest ones still live with me. She's a senior in high school, and my other son is going to community college. He's got a scholarship to community college, so he's doing that. And then my oldest son lives in Fairbanks, Alaska, with his fiance, and they're going to the University of Fairbanks, and they live in a dry cabin. So not to get too far off the topic here, but
no, I love it.
Have you ever heard of a dry cabin? Do you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't know what a dry cabin was, and I'm assuming most listeners probably don't know what a dry
probably
cabin
don't, unless you live in Colorado or Montana or something like that. You might know. Yeah. Wow. Go ahead. Yeah. Tell me.
So they live in this, and they've been living there now for almost 2 years. This is their second full school year up there, and if they can live together in a dry cabin, they're going to make it together. Seriously, like that, like we weren't sure, like, well, we better get ready for him to fly back here in 6 months because they're going to kill each other. It's the cabin they live in is, I don't know, 20 feet by 20 feet.
Yeah,
something like that, maybe 18 by 18. I'm not sure. And it's one room. There's a little half of a loft where you crawl up the ladder and go to sleep, but everything else is like just a tiny studio room. There's a tiny kitchenette, tiny couch. When there's a door, it sits up off the ground. But the reason called dry cabin is because there's no running water.
No running water. I think they have like a cistern, or they haul water in. What's it called? What is it called?
They have to. Well, this house, this house, they have to go and buy these big 5-gallon jug things from Walmart or wherever, and they put it over the sink, and they just open the system, right? And then they take the water and they wash their dishes, and they have to go take it out, and then if they want to go to the restroom, they literally have an outhouse. So they have to walk out, go to the outhouse, and it's in Fairbanks, Alaska. So I mean, they have to go out, use the restroom in negative 38 degrees.
Oh,
right?
I don't know how you do that. So, I don't know how you do that. I don't know how you do that.
Snow's 3 feet deep, and like, what do you do when you wake up at 2 a.m? You got to go to the bathroom. It's like,
I don't know.
I mean, God, I don't know how they survive up there. It's like I could do that for a weekend, like you and me. Let's go hang out.
Yeah, weekend's cool.
We won't shower for a couple of days, right?
Yeah.
3 max, right? Like you said, and then we'll go hang out and go hunting or do fishing or do whatever. But they're doing this every day. Like I don't, How
about bears? You got bear problem? Do you have any bear issues?
No, but moose.
Moose problem.
Moose all the time. Yeah, big moose come and they'll stand in the yard, and then they
crap all over everything.
And they don't want to go use the. One time my son got stuck in the outhouse because this big, like 12-foot tall moose was in between him and the house, and he's like, well, I'll just stay in the outhouse until the moose goes away. Because they get real aggressive.
For the listeners, if you've never been next to a full grown moose, they are gigantic. They're huge. and they will hurt you. Yeah, I've been close to several of them up in the mountains in Colorado, and yeah, it's they can run you over pretty quick.
Yeah, absolutely. So
That's pretty cool. No, that's pretty cool. Interesting. Yeah, that's I like your oldest boy. I wouldn't mind going up and hanging out for a weekend, probably in the summer though.
yeah, go in the summer.
That's pretty cool. No grandkids yet then.
No grandkids yet. Well,
All right.
we can wait. We can wait a few years on that. That's fine.
Yeah. So last time we talked, I think it was, damn, was it a year ago,
It
maybe?
was about a year ago. Yeah, maybe a little
Yeah.
more. Maybe a little
Yeah.
more. Yeah.
So you switched companies. You left and went to Brain Corp, right? Because you were at what was the name? I can't remember.
Cloud Mines.
Cloud Mines, yeah. So you went to Brain Corp. Tell me
Yep.
about why'd you change? What was the reason? And then we can roll into Brain Corp. Go ahead.
Sure. Oh, it's pretty easy. So I was working with Cloud Mines, and they were focused at the time I was hired to kind of expand out their U.S. operations. They're a Chinese-based company.
Okay.
And then just because of some economic things and some regulatory things, they kind of decided, after I was doing a lot of consulting, as I was there to help build the strategy for that. And then we kind of realized at that point that maybe it wasn't the right time to grow into the U.S. market at the moment.
See.
And so it was very amicable split. I said, okay,
Okay.
look, you guys want to do this. I don't think it's the right time to do that. And they're like, yeah, we seems like, yeah, okay, all right. And so so I was right place and right time, and I knew a couple of the folks at Brain Corp, and had reached out to them, and so there I was. So I've been at Brain now for just barely over a year.
Well, you started March of 2020, and I was thinking to myself, wow, what a great month to start.
Yeah, no, it was so I started, March 1st or 2nd, whatever it was, that Monday was my first official day. And then I was there for 2 weeks of onboarding, and I flew home on March 13th. And, that was like when everything shut down, everything, that all started. And because I was coming from California, of course, my wife, she worries with the best of them, about things, and very comprehensive, on the concern level for things. And she said, hey, you're coming from California, that's a hot spot, you got to go to the hotel. So she made me quarantine actually for 4 days in the hotel when I came home.
Are you serious? Wow.
It was brand new. It was brand new, and everybody was like scared about it. And I had just met a bunch of folks that had come back from this huge trade show in Atlanta. And so I had been, and then there were a couple of guys from Australia that had come, and there was a guy from China that was there. So she's like, don't take any chances.
Wow. Yeah. That's a crazy time for you to start. And then you were probably thinking, oh shit. Okay. What's going to happen here? Are they going to, I just took this job. Then they're going to decide they don't need this VP. And but I guess, you, so tell us what you're doing there. What is your, or do you want to give like a little bit of a company overview and then roll that into what your role is? Yeah.
Yeah. Let's do that. So Brain Corp's a very unique company. We create the software that we put on existing hardware to make it automated.
Okay.
Right. And so a lot of companies will say, well, we want to make an automated X or an automated Y, right? So whether that's, automation and logistics is huge right now, material handling, things like that. So there's automated forklifts and automated pallet jacks. There's automated delivery robots. So when we say, there's all those types of things, but a lot of it's full stack, or there's a, an ODM, original design manufacturer, right? Where the software company or the design, they'll say, well, we need the machine to be built like this, full stack, right? So hardware, software together. And Brain said, well, if we're going to make something automated, we may not be the expert in this type of machine or this type of equipment. So why would we want to try to build something that we're not experts in? We're experts in software. That's what we're going to do. And then we're going to work with top tier OEMs to automate. So if so kind of like if you want to make a self-driving car, you could build a car, but why would you maybe not say, well, why don't we just go work with some of the best car manufacturers who are experts in cars, experts in, regulations for safety, and experts in airbags, and experts in turn signals and motors and engines. We'll just make the software to make sure it's automated safely. So that's the approach we've taken. And so Brain was actually a very large competitor of mine when I worked at IntelliBot. So the job before Cloud Mines, and I worked there for 5 years. So Brain was our number one competitor, because their first foray into automation was in the cleaning space. And you might say, okay, why would it be cleaning space, professional cleaning? And if you've ever been to a large retail store or a DIY store, and you've probably seen the guy either sometimes middle day, but a lot of times late at night, walking up and down the aisle with the big scrubber machine, it's called an auto scrubber or a scrubber dryer, scrubbing the floor. Well, the first thing we started automating at Brain was those things, and the reason is because it's a very manual task, it's a very repetitive task, and it's something that can be automated fairly simple, and there's a lot of it, right? So it's a huge industry.
Yep.
So that's where we started, and now we're growing those platforms. So now we have 6 or 7 OEM partners in the professional cleaning space. So there's a range of machines that an end user can choose from that all have Brain OS on that. And then we have some material handling partners now, a couple of those that we're growing out with. And we're looking into the future for things like security robots or delivery robots. So if you're in a hotel and, the robot comes up to the elevator and drops off your food, your room service order to you, things like that. And we're looking at things like shelf scanning, so inventory management. So something that would go up and down aisles and scan the aisles and say, okay, you're out of this, for large retailers. So our core right now is retail, and we're building up the cleaning, and now building up. So we have contracts with Walmart and Kroger's, for example.
I gotcha.
Schnucks, Menards. So quite a few large retailers, and that's all public information. I mean, we've announced that.
Are they targeting people who are they targeting the machines? I'll just call them machines, I guess. Are they targeting machines that are already built and you're stacking the software on there, or sometimes now are you working with the manufacturer to create it from the beginning, and they're saying, hey, we'll build the hardware, you build the brain, let's do it together.
We don't retrofit. It's not a retrofit. Okay. So we'll actually, it usually takes about 18 months of collaboration to say, okay, how, it might be an existing machine they already have, or it could be a new machine that they design, to put our kit on. But we have a hardware kit that we have designed, and we work with their engineers to say, okay, build your machine, 99% the same as you've already built it before, but we're going to have this hardware kit on that kind of has a control module and a computer in there and some sensors and things like that, and then that tells the machine what to do.
I saw the machine online on the YouTube channel for Brain Corp, where if you're in retail, you stack a bunch of product on a not a pallet jack, but I don't know what it's called.
We call it a tug, but yeah.
A tug. Yeah. A tug. You stack a bunch of product on there, and then you press a button, and then it takes it all out to the aisle or the location of the store where then the person can stock the shelves.
That's right.
So that's an example. Is that when you say a contract with, who'd you say, Target, and who else?
Walmart and Kroger's.
Yeah. So are they using those? Is that a big purchase? Okay, I see.
So cleaning is our kind of bread and butter right now. The professional cleaning services. That's where we started, and so now we're we've got a little bit more than 15,000 robots running every day in the world, and most of those are cleaning robots. But we just now started to do the material handling. So what we call tugs.
Can you stack this software on the buggies for grocery stores so that when you take your groceries out to the car, the buggy just goes back to where it's supposed to go by itself?
It probably could be done at some point, but not right. There's all, anytime you get outdoors, so outside of the building, you introduce a lot more variables, and so and you have a lot less. It reads, the sensors, whether it's the cameras or the LiDAR, which is light, distance, and ranging. So it's kind of like sonar, but LiDAR, right? So sonar uses sound, LiDAR uses light or vision. Those sensors have to read off of surfaces, vertical surfaces, and the floor, but typically vertical surfaces to what's called localize, or in robot speak, know where it's at, and then make a decision on how to navigate. And so when you get outdoors, if you're in the middle of a parking lot and you have nothing to see, or you have cars that change all the time because the cars are never going to be in the same parking spots, it gets a little more difficult, So I'm sure at some point, that can happen. But right now we stay indoor. So we actually are the number one in deployed autonomous robot in indoor public spaces.
Public spaces.
Indoor is what we look at. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and it's braincorp.com, braincorp.com. And what is your specific role, or who are you who's Joe closing deals with? Are you tell me about your role.
So my role is channel support and development. And so I'm a little bit sales. I mean, technically I'm on the sales team, but really what I do is identify and help activate channel partners and help our OEMs, support our OEMs in penetrating new verticals and new sectors, and unlocking new channels, like like distributor partners or reseller partners. So right now we've got really nice penetration into the retail sector with cleaning robotics. Now what we're trying to do is branch out, and so two of my focus areas are education, K through 12, also higher ed, but there's 4,500 universities in the United States. There are 130,000 K through 12 schools in the United States. So just by nature, you're looking at,
what are you selling? Are you selling them the cleaning stuff too, for the floors and stuff like that?
Right. And so and then also hospitals, healthcare, typically hospitals, not small acute care or surgery centers. It's too small. So to really make the ROI work, for something like this, you need 100,000, 200,000 square feet of space, where you're cleaning, 2, 3, 4 hours a night, so imagine the size of a large retail store. You need that size of a building, or that much floor space anyways, to clean.
When you sell to a school, are you selling to the district, who are you calling? I'm just curious. Like what title, or what person are you trying to get on the phone?
So typically the decisions, they have an operations department typically, or an environmental services department, or a janitorial department. So it depends what they call it, but typically it would be called either janitorial or operations, and they might be the ones that typically make a recommendation, or say, look, this is the type of equipment and the type of processes that we want to use. But usually it's governed at a district level on level. So we need to sanitize the desks so often. So the scope of work is really determined in conjunction between the district and the school board and the janitorial team. Sometimes, and a lot of times in school districts, especially in the past, they self-perform their cleaning services.
Really?
There has been, so the janitor that works in the school is employed by the school. He's an employee
by the school district, or by the town, or how does that work? I don't know.
Yeah, typically if it's a public school, it'd be a government employee, right? Okay. But it's by the district. It's employed by the district. But in the last 15, 20 years, there has been a shift to outsource. So there's large companies called building service contractors, BSCs. I used to be a BSC in a past life. I worked for BSC for 12 years. So I understand that piece of the business quite well. My first job out of college when I was 23 was driving around and making sure toilets were clean.
I remember that.
When we're looking at trying to move into a school or help the school, it's easy for the school to see the value, because not only is it just about making sure the floor's clean, but it's also about making sure that the environment for their students and teachers
Gotcha.
is healthy.
Gotcha.
And what it does is, and it typically in a lot of a lot of school districts, they're at this point they're under budget,
Yep.
or they're over budget. They don't have enough money, right?
Yep.
And it's
Yep.
tough to find help. And so what we're able to do is say, hey, look, we can put this cleaning machine in here. You can take the gentleman or the lady who was scrubbing the floor before, and now you can reallocate that labor to do more important high function tasks, such as disinfecting high touch surfaces, disinfecting desks, cleaning the restrooms more frequently. So all the things that are important anyways, but now, especially in the age of COVID, that's a big win. So it's not just about having cleaner floors. It's about reallocating that labor to do more, without having to, if you don't have the money to hire more, right? So, a lot of people get scared about, oh, robots, they're taking jobs and that kind of thing. Of course, I mean, there's always going to be something, there's always going to be a case where someone says, well, I'm going to hire a robot and we're not going to have this job anymore. But really, it's about being understaffed. I mean, that's the majority of our customers are saying we can't find people, or we can't retain people. It's not a glamorous job. People don't, you don't necessarily always love being a janitor, but it's a really important role. It's a role that a lot of folks, maybe don't realize just how critical that is, because you are, if you send your kids to school, you want to make sure your kids are in a safe and healthy environment. And so now we're able to elevate that job profile, and these guys are now, can now be robotic cleaning experts and robotic managers, to manage maybe even a fleet of robots if it's a big enough school.
I would think a pain in the ass in selling to a school district would be that, they're all about the budget we've already set the budget for the year and this and that, and you're trying to sell them something new, and they're like, okay, well, talk to us in October when we're preparing the budgets for the next. I would think your sales cycle or your lead time or whatever.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
No, the typical sales cycle for AMRs is, autonomous mobile robots, AMRs, is 9 to 12 months.
I would think so. Yeah.
It takes a while, I mean, like, you just got to find the whether, and it doesn't matter if it's a school or if it's a hospital or if it's an office building or a retailer. They've all got budgets, and they've got budget cycles, and they've probably already got manual machines that are not robotic, that they are, in some depreciation cycle. So, they might say, this is great, I love it, I want to buy it, but we still have another year to depreciate on this, on this CapEx fleet that we've already purchased 2 years ago or 4 years ago, depending on what their cycle is, depreciation cycle is. And so now, well, okay, let's hope that a year from now you don't forget about us, or don't lose interest, or something else doesn't come along.
That's where Joe comes in, right? That's your relationship development right there. By the time 12 months goes by, everything about the kids, their family, everything. You're ready.
Hopefully. Yeah, exactly.
And it's interesting in the recruiting space as a recruiting firm, our sales cycle is not that long, but there are relationships we've been working on for 24 months or whatever. And then, they'll finally have a need, and we get the call. So I understand your pain. Yeah. It's not like selling the cable where you're just like knocking on the door and like, hey, you need cable today? Okay, let me go to the next house. This is not the
right.
It's not.
No. Yeah. And there's times where we'll think something, has gone cold. And I mean, again, because I did this for 5 years with IntelliBot before I came here, so I've got a pretty good history, on this, not just the 1 year. There's been times where we've had an account where we thought, well, it's gone cold or whatever, and then all of a sudden you get a phone call out of the blue, and it's like, yep, okay, we're ready, got the budget approved. Well, where'd that come from? Wasn't expecting that, and then likewise, we've had it where we think everything's going perfect and it's all following the right timeline, and they say, okay, great, we'll call you in a year.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you enjoy from a sales perspective? I'm just curious. I'm sure you enjoy the hunt of a new client. You're a super competitive guy, athletic guy, so I'm sure you enjoy the whole mentality around landing a new deal, and that's probably invigorating. What about the What about the, hey, we got a pissed off client over here and we need Joe to go like clean it up and make sure they're not mad at us anymore?
Yeah, no, in fact, I actually like that better.
Do you?
Yeah.
Do you? Yeah, yeah. Okay.
I mean, I've said this actually to my my bosses in the past. I don't particularly like being a salesperson.
But you like the relationship piece. The
I,
relationship
I
piece you love.
I like
Yeah.
the relationship piece, and that's why I like what I really like what I do now, because I'm not out hunting every day. What I'm doing is helping our channel partners and our
Yeah.
OEMs activate their sales activities, and so how to understand the value proposition, how to build a strategy to go into this space or this vertical or this sector, how to prioritize accounts and opportunities, and identify the right, whether it's a site or whether it's a customer, and that kind of stuff. So I really enjoy the relationships, and then building those teams to go do that.
It's a special talent.
Being in sales is tough. I mean,
Oh,
it is hard, and I don't, and to me, sometimes it takes the right person to do it. And I've known, several really great sales folks, and I say, how do you do this every day? It's like, what's the quote from, from Back to the Future? Like, I just don't know if I can take this kind of rejection. When Marty McFly's dad says that about the book or whatever, that he was trying to write. I mean, it's like, it's tough because you
oh
you
yeah.
get shot down 9 times out of 10, or you don't get a call back, and you're like,
Yep.
sometimes you're just like, geez, what am I, am I that bad? So it is tough to be a sales guy. It takes
really
a
is.
really, really different mindset. So I salute the guys who are out there in the front line doing that every day. It's tough.
Totally agree. I totally agree. Nobody on the team really wants to do sales because it's super hard. Yeah, you got to have Teflon, jacket on,
Yeah,
and
you do.
you have to be able to take rejection. I had just having a conversation with a sales guy recently, and he's like, yeah, I sent like 4 emails yesterday, so I'm hoping to kind of maybe hear back something. Like,
And
I'm
you better send like
okay.
1,000 emails, and you better.
Oh, you're in the wrong line of work, my friend. Like, you have no clue. Anyway, I want to ask you about robots here towards the back end of our conversation. A little bit bigger picture. We
Sure.
talked a little bit about this last
Mm-hmm.
time. What are your thoughts, Joe, on like how far will robots and AI? How far will that go? Like, what do you see, down the road, 50 years from now, whatever? I don't know. Let's pick a number, but
Yeah.
like, where do you see it? Where do you see it all going long term?
I mean, if it's in the, so it's a good question, and you can ask 1,000 people and get 1,000 different answers. I guess in my view, I like to look at it. Let's look at B2B. Okay, because if you have B2C, so if you have business to consumer, right? Those would be business to consumer. I can justify anything I spend as a consumer, right? Just because I like it, right?
True.
I can say,
True.
oh, I want the newest iPhone because I get this great camera, blah blah blah, right? But or I want to go buy this car, and there's no, maybe because I like all the bells and whistles, but do I really need that car, and does it really make sense? Probably not.
Right.
So B2C is one thing. So let's keep, because robotics, you can get people to buy stuff because it's cool all day long. You're not going to get, but if you really want to get full acceptance and say build an infrastructure of a robotic platform that's really going to change fundamentally an industry or the functionality of something, that's on the B2B side. So you look at some of like Amazon, for example, but you look at some of the big logistics provider, Alibaba, and things like that. All the automation that they're putting in. You look at some of the large logistics handling companies, FedEx, DHL, UPS. They're automating. Even car manufacturers automating. And so that's where the shift is really going to go. And I think in my mind, it's probably less cool, but it's more fun. It's more foundational and more that's going to change. So and you're starting to see now finally, with what Brain's doing is putting robots in public spaces. So in the past, right, you know what all this automation that's ever, you know, kind of happened in the business world has happened behind the curtain.
That's
You
right.
know,
Yep.
right? So you know, you and I on an everyday basis, you know, we're not walking through a logistics, you know,
Right. Right.
manufacturing or you know, industrial complex, because that's closed to the public. That's their employees and their safety zones and all that kind of stuff. You know, now, you know, Brain is leading the space for indoor mobile robots in public spaces, and I think that's where you're going to start to see this crazy shift. So customers, you know, in public, and people in the public space are going to now interact much more frequently with this. If you go to YouTube, you can find people taking videos of robots in public spaces because they're there for the first time, and they've started to be there. So I think you're going to see things that aid businesses, but that are more out in public spaces.
Okay.
You know, we see things like delivery robots. That's going to be big, right? Just taking something from point A to point B,
Yeah.
whether that's in a hospital, whether that's in a, I mean, there's some, like, you know, meal delivery services in downtown, heavily populated cities that are now, you know, instead of having a Uber Eats or a DoorDash or whatever go pick up your food and deliver it to you, if you're in a very highly populated area, you know, like a San Francisco or Chicago or New York or something, the little robot pulls up, and the restaurant puts the food in that robot, and that robot drives down the sidewalk and goes to your apartment complex, and then you come out and get it and go back up, right?
Wow. Okay.
So that's another example of, you know, and that's an outdoor one. And we talked about earlier where it's tough to go do outdoors. You know, it is, but they've, you know,
Will we live in a society where human beings don't have to do much? Do you see a world eventually where humans just have time for leisure and creative activity, and we're not having to do anything physically, and robots are doing the rest? Do you see that eventually?
I think by nature we aren't like that. You know, I mean, look at everything that we have in our house now today that we kind of take for granted. And if you went back 150 years from now and brought someone here, they would say, "Oh my gosh, you have this like crazy machine that you just throw your dishes in, and an hour later they're perfectly clean, and I don't have to stand in the sink. And oh my gosh, you've got this machine where you just throw your clothes into, and I don't have to stand, you know, with the scrub board in
Right.
the basement." Right? It was like all these automated things, right, that we have around the house that we kind of take for granted. I mean, look at the vehicles that we have. You know, it's like, oh, you don't have to have the horse and the buggy, and you don't have to all this work to get maintain a cart and a, you know, a Conestoga wagon or whatever, right? I mean, but are we any less busy? Look at computers. Look at, you know, oh, the typewriter killed the pen, the computer killed the typewriter. Like, what's next? I mean, are we any less busy? No, we just try to jam more productivity into our daily lives, and that's why I think having a work-life balance is so important. And kind of circle back to what you said before, it's like, you know, people should have something to kind of throw themselves into, whether that's a hobby or
Other than work. Yeah.
other than
Yeah.
work, you know, because
Yeah.
you know, if you like what you do, you'll never work a day in your life, right? And I do like what I do. I love what I do, but it's I think you've got to have some other outlets there, you know, to have a balance.
Well, so what I heard you say right there was, yeah, even if robots end up doing a lot of things for us, we'll just think of other shit to do. And because we're just super by nature, we want to just,
Yeah.
we're going to
Yeah.
try to figure something else out.
Yeah, and just like anything else, I mean, when the computer came around, you know, and folks said, "Oh my gosh, well, this is going to kill all the typewriter jobs, or this is going to do," but how many people do you know who work in IT now or work in,
Right.
right? I mean,
Right.
computers have made a huge industry and a huge business, you know, and so I mean, you know, I mean, I've got tons of people I know now who jobs that did not exist 5 or 6 years ago, who are now AMR deployment specialists, AMR consultants. So you know, you need, there's just more jobs that come with those other jobs, you know, come with those other products that are created.
What about the AI piece as it relates to humans with something in your ear or your eye or
Yeah.
something implanted. Like, would you do that, by the way? If they made a chip to get implanted to do so, would you do that? I'm just curious.
I'm not a conspiracy theorist, so I don't think like I mean I'm not I know some folks like, oh, don't take the vaccine because there's a microchip in that's going to put in your body and the Bill Gates is going to control you or something. I mean totally fine to be cautious. Totally fine. It's America. If and that's we can debate that, but I think when it comes to I'm less about worried about somebody doing something crazy to me and more say, what, this is the future. Let's embrace this,
Yeah.
and there's some faith there, but that you have to have, I think. But yeah, no, I if I weighed the risks and thought, okay, this seems fairly safe, I would totally do it, like the Matrix,
It's
plug it
funny.
in, plug into the Matrix or whatever. Yeah.
We could have said that about. I'm wearing an earpiece right now, right? Like back then, they could have said something like, "Well, what if that earpiece is implanted with some sort of secret thing that's like listening to you all the time?"
Right.
I mean, you could just go on and on with the conspiracy stuff. I mean, if we make something from an AI perspective that makes life better,
Yeah.
I'm all for it. Whatever that better is, right? Am I smarter? Am I faster? Does it give me information quicker? Whatever it does, I'm all for it. Sign me up. I mean,
I agree.
yeah, I'm generally not a big conspiracy guy either. I just don't think, that goes back. We could even tie that into COVID. I had a few friends that were like, well, this is all a conspiracy, blah, 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 and all this stuff. I'm like, so you're telling me that, like, I don't know, 50 something country leaders like got together in a secret room and like all agreed as country leaders to come up with the same conspiracy? Like, I doubt it.
Right. Yeah, I think COVID exists. Now we can argue how we want to go about, is it the right decision to shut this
Right.
down or do that? That's a very
That's a
legitimate,
different deal. Yeah.
exactly. But no, yeah, it's
Yeah. So I'm not a big, so AI. And then the other thing about AI, I wanted to ask you too, like, when is it going to go? I mean, what's your thoughts on just how is it going to move faster? And here's why I asked that question. I visit with guys like you. I find all of this stuff fascinating, but yet I still cannot talk into my phone and it gets it right every time. And
yeah.
so I'm like, okay, I hear about all this cool shit we're making. Meanwhile, can you just get my phone to like understand me every single time?
Yeah. No, I mean, it's tough to. I mean, think how many mistakes that you and I make on a daily basis in our lives, right?
Mhm.
How many times do I accidentally hit the table when I'm going around the corner and I knock something over? How many times do I pick up the phone and I say the wrong thing or I hear the wrong thing because, oh, what'd you say? Oh, I thought you said whatever. I mean, and then you have to ask, and the difference between, I think, where so you're always going to have mistakes. I mean, it's really tough to make something perfect if it's not ones and zeros, right? If it's not, anytime, so the more variables you put into an environment, and the more, especially if it's moving around and you have to have navigation now, or if it's your phone, it's like, well, what you come out of your mouth is dynamic. It could be anything. If it's looking for a set response, like, please say yes or no. Well, it's not ever going to get that wrong unless you just mumble something incoherent, right? Yeah, but I mean, but if it's a dynamic response, it has no idea what you're going to say. Now it has to think really fast and really hard, and it's doing it over the air, and it has to go to space and back, and so it's just it's going to get there, I think, but it's not going to go fast. I mean, I remember telling one of my vendors one time, like, I think we were talking about phones, 10 years ago, and it was right when the first iPhone came out, and I'm like, man, this thing's not that great, whatever, and now it's only been 10 years, and now I've got, an iPhone with cameras better than a DSLR 10 years ago. I've got a screen that's better than the television I had 5 years ago. I mean, so it comes, but it's just in such steps that you don't really notice it until it's here, and then so I don't know. There's never gonna. I don't think it's very rare that you're gonna see something comes out and go, all of a sudden, holy crap, did you see what that just, I mean, because it just has to take these evolutionary steps, and then we're impatient. And so when it takes so long to get there through all these little steps, and then we've heard about it as it's gone through this progression. I mean, sending rockets to space now, like SpaceX,
Right.
How crazy is that? I can go buy a ticket to go to the moon, right? But we've been hearing about this for so long now, and they've been testing the rockets for so long now. It's like, oh yeah, they finally got around to doing that now. It's like it's not impressive anymore. If like there's no reveal anymore. There's no
Right.
curtain reveal. So I think you're going to see really cool stuff if you jump 10 or 20 years at a time. But the steps are so evolutionary and small that by the time you get there, if you followed it that whole time, right? Like if you went into a tunnel or got put into an underground bunker and then you came up 10 years from it, you go, oh my gosh. But
It is.
Yeah.
It is moving. It is moving fast. If you really think about the lives, the how long Earth has been around
Yes.
compared to the jump in technology just over the last 100 years. I mean, whatever the Earth's like, I don't know, what is it, 4 billion years old or whatever? I don't know. We could debate that too. Whatever the latest stat is, I can't remember. I
Yeah.
apologize. I'm spitting that out wrong, but billions of years old. Anyway,
Long time.
I was in Tombstone, Arizona recently visiting a friend. We were walking down Tombstone. You ever been to Tombstone, by the way?
I have not.
Okay. So, it's a little touristy town, whatever.
Right.
Anyway, there's a stagecoach sitting there. This guy's got the horses and the stagecoach. You ride around, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm looking at that stagecoach and I'm thinking to myself, damn, like that really was just like 150 years ago. Like that wasn't that long ago. If in the big scheme of things, if you think about how long we've been around as human beings,
Right.
like it wasn't that long ago. You were riding in a stagecoach 100 miles across the freaking, mountains in Colorado, right? It just was not that long ago. And so it is actually advancing pretty damn fast is my point.
Yes, it is. It's fast. We just don't realize it, right? There's not
Right.
the curtain reveal where the curtain comes open. It was wow, because you're seeing these evolutionary steps, and then it's about taking these little pieces of it. Well, if we can take this piece that this guy did over here, and this piece this guy did, and now we can put it all together. Then you get there, But then even that takes some steps and some processes,
I'm just mad that I'm 53 years old and that by the time we actually do have robots doing everything for us, I'll be dead. I'm pissed off about that.
Well, you never know, man. It might be 10 years ago. You might have robots doing stuff, It just, we don't know, we
don't know. We don't know. Joe, I really appreciate you being on the Riderflex podcast, man. Fascinating conversation as always, my friend.
Thanks for having me back. I really appreciate it. It's been fun.
If you think today's tip or guest interview can help someone please share this with them. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to our channel and hit the like button. The Riderflex podcast features entrepreneurs, business executives, and the stories behind how they got there, as well as daily tips on career advice and job interviewing. You can visit riderflex.com to learn more about us and get information and pricing on the recruiting and consulting services we provide. Thanks so much for listening and have a great day.